Good evening. I'm Lisa Broom with the CBC Evening News. In our top story tonight, local company Goddard Enterprises Limited has confirmed that 3 of its employees have been detained by police. Kareem Smith has more.
In a release, Goddard Enterprises Limited says it has become aware of a situation involving its vessel, 2 of its directors and a staff member who've been detained by police. The statement comes 2 days after police confirmed a major drug bust off Barbados' waters. The statement released this afternoon indicated Deputy Chairman William Putnam would act as chairman of the company. It also revealed that Chief Executive Officer Anthony Ali was currently away on company business. The statement, signed by Mr. Putnam, said at this point, we understand that no one has been charged. It continued, we are confident that the police are engaged in their usual high standard of investigation, and we look forward to putting this matter behind us very quickly when the full facts are known. It also sought to assure its stakeholders that the company continues to uphold the highest standards of ethics and integrity, which have been the backbone of the organization from its very beginnings. Yesterday, police indicated it was questioning 3 men in relation to a drug finding on a yacht. At the Oistins police station where the 3 men were being questioned, attorney Andrew Pilgrim revealed he was in fact representing chairman of the Goddard Enterprises Group, Charles Herbert, along with captain of the yacht, Ecstasy, Chris Rogers. CBC understands the 3 men are still being questioned by police. Meanwhile, well-known attorney Arthur Holder confirmed he is representing a 3rd man held in connection with the drugs. The operation was conducted by officers from the drug squad on a Barbados-registered vessel at the Bridgetown port at 1 p.m. on Monday when lawmen found a quantity of marijuana during their search. Kareem Smith, CBC News.
Thanks, Kareem. Government is drafting new legislation to decriminalize vending. Minister of Small Business and Entrepreneurship Dwight Sutherland also confirmed plans for his ministry to oversee that sector. The minister believes vendors must be seen as entrepreneurs and not lawbreakers.
We have to remove all of the fears and all of the major obstacles to business development in this country, whether it is vendors, whether it is the wayside vendor selling coconuts, eggs, whatever. We can't criminalize vending and expect that our economy will grow for a small business. So our ministry is charged with that responsibility. And we are presently working on drafting documents that will go to Parliament that will amend legislation to ensure that vendors are seen as entrepreneurs and small businessmen in this country.
Minister Sutherland was delivering the feature address at a workshop hosted by the Barbados Manufacturers Association. Now, while strongly disputing the notion that the manufacturing sector is dead, the minister did concede it needed to be revived, given the steady decline in its contribution to the country's gross domestic product.
The contribution of manufacturing to GDP has moved from 8% in 2008 to as low as 5% in 2017. Take those figures to heart. This decline remains of some concern given the fact that globally manufacturing continues to grow and accounts for approximately 16% of global GDP presently.
BMA President Robert Noel says the workshop is the first in a series of initiatives focused on helping members and entrepreneurs to grow their businesses and, by extension, Barbados' economy.
We are aware of the role we have to play to assist the manufacturing sector and Barbados in general as we prepare to pursue the uncomfortable path to economic recovery. But we determined to use this time to focus on opportunities and aggressive efforts to reposition the manufacturing sector.
Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley will continue to push for the implementation of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, or CSME, this week when she holds another round of talks with CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin LaRocque in Barbados. Discussions on Friday are expected to focus on the key CSME matters to be addressed at the forthcoming meetings of the Council for Finance and Planning, as well as the Prime Ministerial Subcommittee on the CSME. These meetings will be held in Barbados in September, while the special meeting on the conference of the CSME will take place in Trinidad in November. Now, during the closed-door talks, which will also be attended by some members of Cabinet, Ms. Motley and Secretary General LaRocque are expected to outline how resources can be mobilized across the community to advance these initiatives. During the 39th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government, it was noted that Prime Minister Motley, who has lead responsibility for the CSME, will meet on a monthly basis with the CARICOM Secretariat to advance the regime. The Barbados-based Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency says actions can be taken to strengthen homes, reducing the level of impact from disasters. Deputy Executive Director Elizabeth Riley says this was evident in the aftermath of Hurricanes Irma and Maria, as a number of homes in affected islands and territories managed to withstand the impact.
We also saw in Anguilla, the experience in Anguilla, that 35% of the homes were damaged there. And one of the characteristics of Anguilla is that because of repeated impacts over the years, many homeowners have in fact switched now to building concrete roofing. And that has proved to be a very have a very positive impact with respect to the hurricane winds. Of course, you have to look at the integrity of that with respect to earthquake, because they're also prone to that. But the point on building the homes in a robust way is something that's very, very important.
A Barbadian is among 7 Caribbean nationals granted pardons by New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. The others are from Jamaica and the Dominican Republic. They were facing deportation and other consequences as a result of previous minor criminal convictions. Cuomo says Frank Barker has been crime-free for 9 years. The 43-year-old Barker was convicted of criminal possession of stolen property and controlled substances, as well as identity theft.
One of the rationales they use is people who committed crimes in the past. Even if they have no criminal activity, even if they're now leading productive lives, they deport people based on past crimes. We're doing everything we can to frustrate their efforts. One of the things we can do is pardon people for past crimes so their records are expunged. Pardoning means you pardon the crime committed, so they no longer have a criminal record. And that criminal record then can't be used for deportation.
Well, since taking office, Governor Cuomo issued 34 pardons, 12 commutations, and 140 conditional youth pardons. Guyana's Foreign Affairs Minister Carl Greenidge says Barbados has signaled its willingness to reopen maritime boundary talks. According to Mr. Greenidge, there have been no technical or political discussions between Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago or Guyana and Barbados on their maritime boundaries in the longest while.
The majority of the Caribbean's international maritime boundaries are yet to be established, owing to several outstanding boundary matters which are yet to be resolved among Caribbean nations. Though not much progress can be made with just 2 parties, both Guyana and Barbados have expressed an interest in further discussions on its overlapping maritime boundaries. Minister of Foreign Affairs Carl Greenidge told a news conference on Monday that Barbados' newly elected Prime Minister Mia Motley has signaled her interest in having such talks with Guyana.
Prime Minister of Barbados did say to us that they would be interested in looking at this matter. The President did indicate to Barbados, the Barbados Prime Minister, that we will talk about this one. The technicians can at least have a preliminary look.
Many of the maritime boundaries in the Caribbean overlap because many of the nations are situated in close proximity with each other. Greenidge explained that therefore, in order to have a definitive resolution, all parties must be involved.
Barbadians attending this weekend's annual convention of Jehovah's Witnesses will learn practical ways to face present and future challenges. The 3-day convention gets underway this Friday and runs until Sunday at the Garfield Sobers Gymnasium. It will include talks and interviews, multimedia presentations, and a featured film centered on the theme, Be Courageous. Media Services Overseer David Gill says people of all ages are experiencing more anxieties and fears than before and must be taught how they can be courageous and learn from the Bible in handling the growing pressures.
Now, let me give you an example. The bullying is something that is of national concern here in Barbados. Young ones at school have been experiencing bullying. Those attending the convention will hear practical solutions from the scriptures as to how they can cope successfully with courage against bullying. Harassment, that's another area of concern, harassment in the workplace. Many women and sometimes men experience harassment in the workplace. How can they cope successfully? Where will they get the courage? But the Bible gives practical advice in that area.
Organizers are expecting thousands to attend the convention. Assistant Media Services Overseer Roger Holford says various multimedia will be used to reach Barbadians. He says the Barbados Regional Convention is just one of many taking place this weekend.
Usually we have visitors coming into the island for the convention, but it is not just a regional convention. It is actually a worldwide convention in that we have over 180 different lands will have various presentations of this particular convention. So Barbados and the region basically joins with a worldwide brotherhood in terms of presenting the convention, and we really anticipate that many persons here in Barbados can benefit from it. So as we mentioned before, there's no admission fee, the seats are free, there's no collection. We just want individuals to be able to come so that they can benefit from the program, because all of us need to be courageous in the challenging times that we're living in.
Over 30 years of music will be combined into one show, giving patrons a taste of calypso and soca from as far back as the 60s to the present day. After rave reviews following last year's show, the organizers of Golden Soca are promising vintage mixed with Crop Over 2018. Golden Soca comes off on August 11th at the Sea Rocks Dome. Promoter Peter Boyce says the show is unique as it identifies artists who have made an impact. Now, that lineup features a number of past monarchs and present-day hit makers.
You will find that a lot of the artists on the show not only can be classified as vintage acts, but also can play the dual role as having had hits for Crop Over 2018 as well. And Lil Rick is one of those people, and RPB. We have Peter Ram, who will be performing songs like Woman by My Side, All a We, and all of his hits. We have the General Edwin Yearwood from Crossfire. He will be there performing. And you know Edwin Yearwood, he is an innovative artist.
Golden Soca was given the stamp of approval by Cultural Ambassador Dr. Anthony the Mighty Gabby Carter.
It's great white because it's the only event I know that allows the new and the old to mix as one. You either have a back in time or you have a young people thing with bashment and all things, but this event is like all-encompassing. So it allows the people to see the music in the different stylings and all of that. And I am very happy to be associated with this.
Now to this sad news. Former diplomat and Pan-Africanist Dr. Waldo Walron Ramsey Sr. has passed away. The 88-year-old complained of an upset stomach on Monday and went to the doctor. Ramsey passed away around 3 p.m. yesterday. He was with his wife Sheila at the time. The father of Ramona, Jill, and Waldo Jr. was a lawyer for more than 50 years. Bermuda has again come under criticism in the UK Parliament for its stance on gay marriage. Some lords feel London should force its overseas territories to legalise same-sex marriages. ZBM Television reports.
It began when Baroness Barker, a Liberal Democrat, accused Her Majesty's government of double standards by forcing the territories to adopt public registers of owners behind local companies, but did not force gay marriage upon the territories. She put this question to Lord Tariq Ahmad, the Minister for the Overseas Territories.
Why the double standard? My Lords, firstly, I don't think there is a double standard. The noble lady may recall, as the Minister for the Overseas Territories, my vociferous defence for the autonomy of the overseas territories. However, the will of the other place was such that the actual will of Parliament was upheld by the government. We would rather have not been in that position.
But it was Conservative Lord Naseby, who acts in the Lords as the Vice Chair of the All-Party Cayman Group, who reminded peers of the autonomy of the British Overseas Territories.
A number of the overseas territories have their own constitution to deal with domestic matters. And then, as I understand it, in their view, this particular subject that's raised by this question is a domestic issue. They have elected members of Parliament. Those parliaments debate these issues, and surely it is for those parliaments, which after all represent the people living in those islands, to decide what is appropriate or not.
Inevitably, Bermuda's controversial stance on gay marriage caught the attention of some Lords. The Labour Party's Lord Collins of Highbury was one of them. He spoke from a personal point of view.
Now, of course, when the Noble Lord the Minister read out the list, Bermuda would have been on it, because they did pass same-sex marriage laws. In fact, people were able to marry. And then we had that overturned. So the government can't abrogate its responsibilities here, because it was agreed to by this government, which it shouldn't have been. It should have upheld the rights of LGBT people. And I declare an interest. I'm actually half Bermudian. So when I go out there with my husband, will I be able to exercise the same rights? I hope the Noble Lord the Minister will stand up for same-sex marriage in Bermuda.
On the specific issue of where we are with Bermuda, as the Noble Lord will be aware, again, that particular bill, that particular piece of legislation has been referred to the Supreme Court. The government of Bermuda are appealing that particular decision, and later this year a determination will be made.
Well, the issue of taxation for St. Lucia's leading economic sector, tourism, has been a difficult one for the government over the years. There's been concern that the sector has not been paying its fair share by way of taxes. The minister responsible for tourism believes that it's a delicate balance that has to be maintained.
The March 27th letter, from all indications, appeared to be urgent. The meeting, according to the correspondence, was to, apart from discuss the possible impact of a proposed US $5 accommodation head tax, discuss the apprehensions of SLHTA members and their recommendations for the way forward. And despite reservations from the then President Sanov Destang about the leaking of the letter to local talk show hosts, there appeared to be no clear resolution, or at least no resolution was publicly announced by either party. So the local media questioned Minister in the OPM with responsibility for tourism, Dominic Fede, for an update.
My words to the SLHT is let your heart not be troubled, because a budget has passed and the government has not signaled anything as it pertains to the implementation. We had this discussion about a year and a half ago, and the government really needs to look at ways to improve the revenue situation of the country, and we have to make sure that all sectors and all segments of the economy do contribute towards that. If you look at the fact that when the VAT rate was implemented, for example, the rest of us were paying 15% and tourism was paying 8%. And then it was increased eventually to 2%. So if there is any elbow room for additional revenues, there might be perhaps on tourism. But I'm not the Minister of Finance, this is just my opinion.
Across the Caribbean, brought to you by CIBC First Caribbean.
Well, the sports news is just ahead on the CBC Evening News. But before we get to that, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
Before the arrival of a hurricane, householders should clear their yards of all loose objects which may become dangerous missiles during the hurricane. Cooperators General Insurance, helping you to be prepared this hurricane season.